All right, so officially welcome again. Super glad that you're all here tonight. Because honestly, this is such an amazing topic. Like I'm so excited. Like whoever like watched my stories, they know okay, this is exactly what I'm totally into right now. And I think it's really like yeah, the whole topic of like cycle syncing and like female period power. It's something we should all have so much knowledge about because that's in general like how we work. It's like basically a description about how we actually work as women, but we mostly don't even know half of that stuff. Like there is such a lack of knowledge, and that's why I'm like so into it, and like why I'm so amazed by it is because like lots of you know like for the ones who don't know me yet, yeah, I'm like since 5.5 years, I'm basically working in my own business. I'm in network marketing since 5.5 years, and I remember like in the beginning, and maybe you know that from Instagram, like the whole hustle culture is like okay, every single day you like 100%, and every single day you do and you push and you like discipline and whatever. And for me it never worked, like for me it was always like, yeah, like for like 1 week I could do it, and then I had another week where I was like so low in energy, and like I just wanted to stay in bed, and I just wanted to like, I don't know, like just be creative. And this is totally normal because we're women. So this is why I'm like, it gave me such a relief basically when I figured out, oh, wait a minute, we are not like men, we're not like linear, like we are like in waves basically. And I think in every aspect of life we can like look into it. It gives us like so much freedom and like so much, yeah, like it's so lightweighted if you know okay, this is actually okay how it is. Yeah, that's about me. I'm gonna like tell you a little bit about like the 4 seasons like of our cycle basically. But before I jump into that, Sophie, if you want to introduce yourself and yeah, tell us a little bit about what your part is today.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to make it short. So my name is Sophie. I'm from Germany and I work as, yeah, also in nutrition business. That's why we got to know because we work for the same company. And I'm also there for like 7 years. So I worked a lot with nutrition, but I switched it in the last years a lot to like women healing and women empowerment and just bringing women back to their feminine core. Because for me, I think it is so crazy. It's so hypocritical because feminism is such a big topic in the today's world, and still women get distanced more and more from their feminine core. And I think it is so important that we know our powers and that we know our magic. And yeah, so I just figured out, okay, I'm gonna bring women back to their core energy. And for me, it was like when I was a kid, I had this highly sensitivity to energy, but like it is when you are a kid, you get told, okay, this is just a dream and this was not real, and you didn't really sense that. So at one point I realized, okay, I just made that up. So if adults tell you again and again, oh, that's not real, at one point you think, okay, I must have made that up. When I became a teenager and in my 20s, of course, it was like I was interested in boys and going out and all that stuff you're interested in. And because I got on the pill I don't know if it's early, but I started taking the pill with 16. So every sensitive sense was blocked away anyway. And then at the end of my 20s, like Laura also said, I was in that hustle, boss babe energy. I have to hustle. I want to make money. And I was so into that everything else, of course, wasn't interesting, and the less spirituality or something. And then with 30, I decided, okay, I'm going to get off the pill. But because I read a lot and I thought, okay, it's just healthier for my body. And then everything which was possible to feel for me came back at the same moment. I felt every energy, I felt every sense, I felt my cycle. Crazy things happened around me, and I was so overwhelmed that I was literally sitting at home crying, and I was so confused and I did not know what to do with all of that because I didn't know it. And I figured out, or I just Googled, okay, energy going crazy. I just Googled the weirdest things because I had no idea what's happening with me. And I had no idea about energy. I did not know about feminine and masculine energy. I had no idea about anything. So I just Googled the weirdest things, and I figured out, okay, there's like a coaching called Reiki where you can learn how you can channel and heal with energy. And I didn't want it to heal. I didn't care. I just wanted to control myself. So I did that coaching just to learn to get to know myself better. And from that it started that I just step by step got deeper into that topic of energy. Then I was like, oh, I can work with my ancestors. This is possible. Okay, then I did an ancestor coaching. Then a friend gifted me a book for meditation. Then I got into meditation. From that, I figured out, we are souls, so we have past lives. I can go into that. And so I put together all these pieces in the last years like a puzzle. And yeah, this is my work now. And it depends if someone needs like trauma healing, I find out, okay, what does a person need? Maybe ancestor work and soul work, maybe energy channeling. So it's totally different. But because mostly women are much more open-minded to these topics, and I have one-on-one mentoring now with a man. So with a male client, but he's the only one. And except of that, I with 99% work with women, and I love that. And I love how the reaction is when I connect women deeper with their core again. So yeah, I love that topic. I love this energy, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and I think that's also like why we connected so well. And that's also now we can like in the German call we didn't even know that we were gonna do that, but now we can say it. Sophie and we're gonna like basically I think most of you guys, you know, like the HHS program, or like you've maybe heard of it, like in some stories or whatever, the Healthy Hearts and Souls. And now we are basically gonna be working together in that as well with Sophie as well, which is absolutely amazing because then we're gonna yeah cooperate or like collaborate with that, and we're gonna have like even like all the knowledge like Sophie just like told you about like Reiki and like energy work and stuff like that. We are also going to do calls about that, which I'm super grateful and I'm super excited yeah to do some things like that together. And the thing basically yeah so that you know a little bit okay what is gonna await you in like the next, let's say like the next hour, is I'm gonna jump into the basics first. Okay, so what is our cycle in general like, and what kind of phases do we have, and then also a little bit about like self-love and self-acceptance. And Sophie is gonna go into like such an amazing interesting topic for me. Like I was like so blown away when we talked first about it, because she's like really into the spiritual feminine power, I would say it like that. So yeah, you can be super excited for that as well. What I want to get started with is, if you think about your cycle in general, if you think about your bleeding, about your menstruation, write it down. What kind of words come into your mind? It can be anything. It can be positive stuff, it can be negative stuff, it can be I'm always tired, I'm annoyed, I'm whatever. Like just put it down, like what you think. And trust me, your first thoughts, just write them down. Don't judge them if they're right or wrong. Just write them down what you think about your period, about your menstruation. I'll give you like 1 minute for that. Just like write some words down for that. All right, so I think you might have some, I'm like too impatient today to give you like a full minute, I guess. Um, but you know, for me, it was always like, I said that before a little bit, like I was in my boss babe attitude and like, okay, hustle hard and whatever. And yes, we have that power. We women, we are so strong. Like honestly, we're so amazing. Like there's so many things we can actually do. And especially also when it comes to like masculine and female energy. I'm sure Sophie and I were going to do a call about that topic as well, because that's so interesting as well. And like I love to give you also like that knowledge beforehand already, is that if we like women actually have the power to really fully also step into their masculine energy. Like we need to, sometimes we need to, if we don't have anyone we can rely on, like we need to step into the masculine energy to survive, like to get things done, to earn money, to do whatever. And I think when it comes to our cycle, this is like something so old and like so profound, because like since we are basically alive, like since people exist, since humans exist, women have their cycle. And this is like the most natural thing ever. And if we go back to that, and like Sophie's gonna tell you a little bit about the history and stuff like that, it's super interesting as well. Um, Back in the years, like back to nature, it was totally different. Like we didn't have to boss babe the hell out of us. There was like just like really different, yeah, like ways of like treating women. And I think if you go a little bit back to that, like how it's like supposed to be, like if you listen more to like your inner nature, things like period pain and like all those negative beliefs we have, they can get way better as well. For me, for example, like I really try to focus on that very, very much right now, because I have like one of the worst period pains basically. Like in my case, it's really if I like I'm really not into painkillers. Like I don't like any like synthetical things in general, so I never take painkillers and I never need them. But when I get my period, like on the first day, I actually have to take one right now still, because if I don't, then it just adds up. The pain adds up and it adds up and it adds up and it gets worse and worse and worse. So this was like happening the last couple of years. And now, since I'm like a little bit more into like, okay, in alignment with myself, in alignment with my cycle, really also planning. And this is what I want you to do as well if you want to really take a look, okay, where am I right now in my cycle? Like there's like different apps you can use. I always use the app Flow. It's like a pink thing with like a white feather, for example, and it's for free. And you just like put it in when you have like your first day of your period, and you like track it a little bit, okay, how long it is. And after a couple of cycles, it is going to predict when your next period is going to come. It is going to tell you on which day of your cycle you are. And I think this is so powerful if you have that knowledge, because then you can plan your life around yourself, around your nature, around your cycle. And why is this so important? Our cycle basically, or like we as women, we work like, if you like, important to say as well, like Sophie said that before, if you have a natural cycle. If you right now taking the pill, I mean, obviously your choice, but just have the knowledge, your cycle isn't like the normal natural cycle. It's not like that you have all those seasons I'm going to talk about, because that's blocked away. Like it's basically like a fake cycle you create when you're like on hormonal, yeah, pill or whatever. So if you have like a natural cycle, or that was actually like also the one of the reasons why I got off the pill back then, like a couple of years ago, because I read that somewhere, like, okay, wow, like a natural cycle is like spring and summer, and we have those strengths and those strengths and this secret power and this secret power. And I was like, wow, like that's so cool. This was one of the reasons why I was actually opening my mind if I should maybe get off it. I'm not telling you what to do, but just that you know how it was in my case. And if you have like the natural cycle, then you can just picture yourself with like the first day of your period. This is like the first day of your cycle. So this is day number 1, is like the first day you're basically bleeding. And this season, while we are bleeding, let's say it's like 3 to 7 days approximately. Also, like the whole cycle is like depends on every woman. Also, like not every cycle of yourself is going to be the same. Your cycle is going to change. It's never going to be the same, because you are also not going to be the same person every single month. You know what I mean? So it always like varies a little bit, but usually you can say it's around like 27 to 35 days. That's like a normal amount of days like a cycle can be from the length. And the first season, basically, when we start with our period, this is the winter season. If you compare it to like the seasons of the year, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like when you have your period, do you feel like, oh, it's summer and I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna party? No, we don't feel like that. So it's literally, it makes a lot of sense. It's like winter time. And when we go through that, if you just, it's so simple. It makes so much sense. Just think about how do you feel in winter? Most times we want to cuddle and like snuggle in, and we want to have it cozy and warm. And this is natural. And we have that intuition because that's actually true, you know? And also, especially, I'm gonna go through like a few phases, and I'm gonna like through all the phases, and I'm gonna tell you like a few bullet points. And then I'm gonna show you something which we also offer within the HHS program. Is like a PDF we created where you have like all the things, like all the information. Okay, what kind of nutrients do I need in this phase? What kind of movement should I do? What should I do in this case, and whatever. And if we are in the winter season, the menstruation season, this is basically, as I said, like winter. And if we go to like 4 archetypes, I don't know if you've ever heard about archetypes. It's like also something, if you dive into like that feminine power kind of topic, there's like different archetypes as well. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, but just that you know, it's gonna give you like an overview. The archetype in the winter season is the wise woman. And again, this tells you a lot. Like in that phase, we are super wise. Why? We are like super connected with our intuition. Like our intuition is super, super strong in those days. So, what you can do if you know about your strengths, if you know about how you are in that season, you can literally, like I said before, plan your life a little bit around that. If you know, okay, next week I'm gonna get my period on Wednesday, maybe don't plan to go out on the Thursday. You're not gonna feel it probably. Maybe you plan something like staying in, and maybe you plan like to do some creative work. Maybe you want to do like some journaling. Maybe you just want to do like some me time, some self-care. Also, that's something like Sophie's gonna touch base on that later, is we can also always like compare it to the moon phases. The winter phase, for example, is literally like new moon. And yeah, like I said already, like in the winter phase, in the menstruation phase, our intuition and our self-love, this is like the strengths we have in there. And then if we go forward to like the spring phase, which is the follicular phase, this is basically, and of course, that's not something I invented, and that's not something which is like, oh yeah, maybe it is like that. No, it's because of our hormones. Like I see Jocelyn in the call, like she's a nurse. I'm sure she knows all about that, like which kind of hormones. I can also show you them later in the PDF. But I think that would be like too long to explain you all of that. But our hormones during this cycle, they just like change, you know, like sometimes we have like lots of estrogen, then we have like lots of progesterone. It's so hard for me to pronounce it in English. And depending on that, we feel differently, of course. And if you compare it again, if you compare it to men, I did a couple weeks ago, I did like a survey on my story, and like most people had it wrong. I was asking, do you think men have a cycle as well? And like so many people were like, no, no, they don't. Men actually also have a cycle, but their cycle is happening within 24 hours. And this is why for men it is so easy to create a routine they can stick to day by day, every single day for like 40 years. They could literally just do that. I always picture them like, you know, if you work in a huge fabric, basically, where like, okay, so your task is just like, okay, putting this thing on the pan, and then the next pan comes, putting this thing on the pan, and then like fabric workers, if you know what I mean, they can do the same thing, just they can live the same day, day by day, and that's fine for them. If you think about us, I mean, at least in my case, I'm pretty sure some of you will like be the same. It's not always like that because our hormones are just different. And and honestly, one of my favorite seasons, I mean, I'm learning to appreciate all of them. But since, yeah, like the winter time, like the winter phase is still one of the phases where I'm still struggling to accept it. You know, I'm still struggling sometimes to accept it that no, Laura, now you're not gonna have tons of appointments. You're not gonna like go out all the time and like meet people and like do presentations because this is winter time. And if you think about nature, nature's like animals out in the woods, they're way smarter than we are. They know it's winter time, so they're gonna do winter sleep, rest, whatever. But we don't. We're like, oh no, I can do it. I can still do my appointments. If you think about all those like tampon commercials, oh, you're on your period, but you wanna go surfing, you wanna do this, you can do. Such a bullshit. Like, no, I don't want to go surfing if I'm on my period. Don't want to be horse riding. I want to be in bed. I want to like have some self-care, some self-love, some, if you want to watch, that's what I did in my last cycle for one day, literally the whole day. And yes, I have my own business. And yes, I always feel like I need to do something. But for one whole day, I was just watching just watching a show on Amazon Prime. So the whole day, I was just like resting. I was just like in peace with myself with that, because I know, and this is what you can realize maybe as well, if you are also having like period pain and stuff like that. When I do that, that I take more care about, okay, hey, I need rest. I'm not going to plan appointments. I'm going to stay in. I can literally see it that my body relaxes way more. And I had it in so many cycles already now that on those days, like the first 1 or 2 days where I usually needed painkillers, I didn't need one. Or instead of like needing 3 a day, I only needed maybe one. So it literally helped me already, just like being more aware of, okay, hey, I'm going to plan my life around my cycle. And then the next phase, and this is like then literally one of my favorite phases. I mean, I like that season as well, really a lot, is the spring season. And why? Because of course, after winter, like everything was slow, we did resting, whatever. But then our energy rises again. And I love that feeling. Like last time Lauren was at my place, I was like, I love when I'm in spring because I feel so good already again. And like, I was just so excited because I could feel, wow, it's time for something new again. Wow, I can do new projects. Wow, I can get out there again. And also in the PDF, I'm gonna like show you later. I also like wrote down some things. Okay, when it comes, for example, to like creativity, to focus, like what can you do when it comes to self-care? What can you do in each phase? And to tell you a little bit about the spring phase is the archetype again. It's the goddess. Really cool name, I think, and really cool archetype. Is basically, if you just think of nature, if you think of that like, oh, spring and like flowers and everything is blossoming and everything is blooming, this is how we feel in that phase as well. Also, that's what I didn't say before, like every season also has one basic element. So for example, I think you all know the 4 basic elements: water, air, fire, and earth. And also that if you know a little bit about those elements, that also tells you a lot. So for example, I think it makes sense, menstruation phase, the element is water. We're super sensitive, it's like soft and stuff like that. And in the spring phase, in the follicular phase, the element is air. Also there, if you know a little bit about it, then it makes a lot of sense. When it comes to the moon phase, it's rising moon. And basically the biggest power behind the spring phase is that, like I said before, we have energy for new stuff, like new beginning, new things. You want to get out there again. And then we come, oh, by the way, this is like from let's say day 7, but it can vary. Like you will feel it if you tune in. Maybe it's on day 5 already in your case. Maybe it's on day 8. Like this is really depending on like how you are, how your cycle is right now. But we say like approximately day 7 to day 13. Because what happens on day 14, if your cycle is 28 days, it's not always the case, but let's say it's 28 days. On day 14, we ovulate. I hope that this is the right pronunciation in English. So this is Jocelyn is already like smiling. So we ovulate. I hope it's right. You know what I mean. And on this day, this is where like our body basically is getting into the summer mode. And again, like if you think about it, how are we in summer? This is like the peak of like being feminine. We always think, okay, it's like, of course, it's also like the menstruation phase, but this is more like the introvert phase of being feminine. And the summer phase is more like the extrovert phase of being feminine. So, of course, like the archetype is mother queen. So it's really like, it's super nourishing in the like for the outside. It's like super basically abundance, like you have like a huge abundance. You're just gonna attract people, you're going to attract nice energies, you're going to attract like a lot of positive things. And you can really see it as like the phase, if you want to plan your life around your cycle, where you should do stuff like, okay, ask for like a raise, like, is it called raise, like for an, yeah, that you get more paid basically in your work. Ask for that, like, um, go and travel, like do things where you want to put yourself out there, and you will feel that this is exactly how you feel in that phase. Of course, little disclaimer, also what I always think, if you compare it to nature, also in summer sometimes we have rainy days. So just because you're in summer season and then there's one day where you absolutely don't feel like going out, that's also fine. Like, but in general, you can plan it a little bit. Hey, okay, this is the phase where I want to go out, where I want to do things, where I'm like super abundant, and I have like that natural glowing in this phase. And if we come back to like the basic element, guess what? It's gonna be fire in summer. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And the moon phase is the full moon phase. Then when we come to the next phase and the last phase, basically the luteal phase, this is like the winter phase, basically. The autumn phase, fall, autumn. And of course, again, how do we feel in fall? How do we feel in autumn? It's time to finish things. It's time to like listen to your inner critical voice as well. Like, okay, just like reflect. How was it? How were my last weeks? What could I have done better? What do I need to finish? This is really like a reflection phase as well. The archetype is wild woman. So again, like just think about it. What could you like, if you think about a wild woman, like how is she? Like, yes, she's intuitive, but she's also getting things done. Like she's like finishing things. The basic element is earth, and the moon phase is the waxing moon. And our biggest strength basically in that phase is that we feel like we're being whole. Like we feel like, okay, we're gonna put everything together. We're gonna, I said it so many times now, finishing things. And I'm gonna show you now, I'm gonna give you like a little insight about the PDF we created as well. I hope it works. Let me just see if I can connect it. Let's see. Should work. Yeah, I'll show it now on my phone because last time I tried it on the MacBook and it did not work at all. All right. So as you can see, so this is the whole PDF. It's like 45 pages long, and it literally shows you everything what I just said, like with the menstrual phase, follicular phase, and all of that, with like the 4 seasons. And also what I really, what I really think is like so powerful as well, is that we actually gonna talk a little bit about, okay, like I said there in the beginning, okay, what are your current thoughts about it, that you can like reflect that as well. I mean, we already did it a little bit. And then it's really about, okay, we learn about the basics. I mean, I told you now a little bit about that. And then we go into each phase, and it's always about, okay, what kind of energy do you have in that phase? What kind of like nourishment, like what kind of food should I eat? What kind of supplements make sense? What kind of like focus and creative flow I have, activities you can focus on, the movement, and some self-care. And if we look into like the spring phase, I told you it's one of my favorites. For example, here, attention to like like a slowly warming up phase, you know, like really, it's like the awakening phase. And in every like season, I put down for you what you also have to like take care of, like where is like some maybe difficulties, or like where you should actually like watch out. Because just because summer is a great season and you're like outgoing, whatever, there's always like that other side of the coin, that sometimes in summer you might burn yourself because you're so much out in the sun, if you get what you mean. If you get what I mean. So in every season, like there's also some things you can really take care of. Also like in spring, avoid doing too much, because we have that feeling of, oh, now I'm out of winter, now I'm gonna do a lot of things. But avoid doing too much. Like just feel inside of yourself, okay, how do I feel, how much do I really want to do? What I think is also super interesting especially in the spring phase, is if we go to supplements, for example. Of course, what's like in most phases actually makes so much sense is omegas. Omegas for women in general is such an important thing. In every phase, you will see it in the PDF then, we need it for different things. So for example, it's anti-inflammatory. So this is like super powerful in lots of phases as well. And what we recommend, or what I recommend, are the omegas from Just Plus, because there you have like a plant-based omega source, and it's not just omega-3, it's also omega-5, 7, and 9. So you have like way more positive benefits on that. B vitamins, that's what I'm having right now in the Uplift. It's also like a huge tip, honestly. B vitamins are so essential for so many things, for your concentration, for so many things inside of your body, and mostly we have not enough of them because in our now day-to-day lifestyle and all the things we grab from the supermarket, there's not so many like so many vitamins still in there. Like if you look at the mango is half green, right? So there's not all the nutrients you would actually need. Of course, vitamin C, magnesium, and what I think is really interesting as well in the spring season is probiotics. And probiotics, it's for example, what I enjoy so much is kombucha. This is like really nice. I love to drink that all the time in my spring season, especially. Or kimchi, or sauerkraut, or miso soup, tempeh, kefir. And in every season, I put something together for you. Or like we put something together where you see, okay, what kind of supplements really make a lot of sense right now. Yeah, as I said, also about focus and creativity, about movement. So, of course, it's different. What can you do in spring? Maybe you want to go out running and biking. And I think everything makes so much sense if you just relate it to the seasons of the year. Because also in winter, you're not gonna go out biking, you're not gonna go out running. So, it makes a lot of sense if you just like read through those things. And then we come to self care. And there also, like, I have some things. Okay, what can you do in the spring season? Buy yourself some flowers. Like, the more you actually go back to the basics, and the more you actually go back to nature, the more your inner feminine power and like your cycle in general, or like your feminine energy will feel like, hey, you're actually listening. And if we don't do that, if we ignore it and we feel like, oh, but I need to get the work done now, I need to do this and I need to do this, there's like a really cool, I'm gonna stop that now. There's like a really cool, like thing you can think of it. If we ignore that, you can just think of it. It's more like, like when a little kid comes and it's like, mommy, 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 and it's just annoying you and you're not listening to, what is it gonna do? It's gonna be more like, mommy, mommy, mommy. It's gonna be super annoying. And this is what happens if we don't listen to our inner voice, if we don't listen to our intuition, if we don't listen to our inner cycle knowledge we actually would have if we would listen to our body, then it's going to be annoying. Then our period is going to be annoying. Then period pain is going to be annoying. But if we listen to it, if that kid would come and you're like, hey, okay, what's going on? And you listen to it, it's going to calm down. And this is exactly the same if you treat your life according to your cycle or not. Yes, this was everything I wanted to say. One more little thing. What I wanted to add is also when it comes to like how your body looks like. I mean, we all like, or like most of us, you know us from like working in the health industry, from like helping you with like your personal health goals, with helping you with to reach your personal body goals. And again, our body is not linear. We are in a cycle, like it's like waves. Sometimes you will feel bloated. And if this is in the phase of fall or winter, don't stress yourself out. Like, this is normal. And of course, like if you have it through the whole cycle, then maybe you can do something. If you do it with probiotics, if you have enough micronutrients that can help a lot, if you know some products from our company as well, which might help you there as well. So just that you know, okay, it is normal that you not always look the same throughout your cycle. We are women, we are changing, I don't want to call us objects, but we're changing, changing bodies, let's say it like that. Yes, so now I talked a lot, and now I'm super excited to hear everything from Sophie. As I told you, it's going to be amazing what she's going to share with us.
Thank you. I love what you said in the end, the comparison with a kid who gets much, much more annoying if it doesn't get a reply from the mom. I love that. And also with the body, I had such a hard time when I got off the pill. My body for the very first time, and there I was like 30 years old, had this cycle where my body really changed and where I was bloated during my period. And I hated it. I hated it. I could not accept it. I hated it. And I hated being in these different stages of my cycle. And last spring, which is not so far away, actually, I was in the apartment with a friend, and we were just walking around. And I think I came out of the shower, so I was naked, and she was just getting dressed as well. So, and we were both on our period. And I looked at her and I looked at me, and I was like, I don't know how you feel, but I'm just on my period, and I look at myself and I can love myself even with this bloating right now. And this was such an accomplishment for me, because for so long I was like hating my body when it was bloated. And now I'm like, okay, it's normal. And I'm thankful that I'm bloated. And yes, it feels shitty. And yes, I have days where I want to look like Netflix and I eat ice cream, which is totally normal. You don't have to, you can be in your divine feminine power, and you can be a goddess and still have days where you say, okay, it sucks. I hate it. I just don't want to see anyone. I hate how I feel. I just want to have ice cream. That's okay. It's totally okay. But I learned to accept it still, to say, okay, I feel shitty, I hate it, but I'm still thankful that I feel shitty because I have a cycle, I have this power. There are women out there who are not able to feel that, who pray for their next cycle to come, or women who just in the age of 50 or 60 who look back when they were younger and who wish to have this cycle again. So I'm like, okay, I may feel shitty, I may feel bloated, but I'm still thankful because I see all the gifts which come with it. And yeah, I love what Laura said about the different parts of the cycle, because even when working in nutrition for so long, like I said, I was never interested in that whole cycle feminine energy thing for so long. So all these nutrient things that you can like support your body in different stages with different foods and different like energies and activities was so new for me too. And I love to hear that, because I can learn from her. And that's like, I love this connection that we can give each other so much, even if we're in the same industry. It always shows that because we have so different topics, it's amazing to combine this. So yeah, I want to start with the core topic, actually, with your womb, because as a woman, everything in your life, no matter if it's your relationships, if it is your job, if it's the money you make, the wealth, your financial freedom, your time freedom, your job, your everything comes back to your womb space. So why is that? Because as a woman, every energy you store, no matter if it's a good one or if it's a bad one, is stored down there. And there can be different parts. For example, of course, like I said, the amazing things, the good things, when, for example, your great grandmother or your grandmother or your mom has amazing gifts. Maybe she's gifted with, I don't know, some great things. You store that in your womb as well. But mostly all these gifts we own are under layers of layers of layers of a lot of stuff which blocks us. And this blocking stuff can come from different sources. It can be from your ancestors. And men are lucky because men don't have that, not in such intensity at least. But women have the trauma and the pain of their ancestors, of their female bloodline from 7 generations ago. And if you think of that, your mom is you're the first generation. Your mom is a second, your grandma is a third, your great grandma is a fourth. And then you can go back great grandma, great great grandma, great great grandma. Think about the 7th generation, how far away that is in time. So when I think about my great grandma, she suffered during times when there was a war in Poland. So she was one of the women who escaped and who didn't get raped. But there were so many women back then who got raped, and it was normal as a woman to get abused and to experience violence back then. And all that trauma is stored into that woman, and they gave it to our grandmothers, and our grandmothers gave it to our moms, and our moms gave it to us, and neither did our moms or grandmothers experience it physically, but it is stored in ourselves. And I have a good example from a friend. One of my friends, and I think she's like 23 now, she has very, very bad period pain as well, but she never experienced any trauma. So she had a loving upbringing, her mom's lovely, and she never experienced rape or anything. And she suffers from such bad period pain. And when it starts on her first and second day, it is so worse. She faints, and she needs to stay in bed and needs painkillers, and like Laura said. And when she was 20, her mom told her, listen, when I was in your age, I got raped. And a few months after, she got pregnant with my friend. So my friend is not the kid of the rape, but the time distance was so quick that all the trauma and all the pain this woman had from this incident was pushed energetically into my friend. And my friend had nothing to do with that physically, but the trauma is in her. So she has this immense period pain that she faints away every time she has a period, because it is like her soul telling you, hey, you have trauma there, you have to heal it. And we go into that for a few months now, and it gets better slowly. Of course, you can't like heal that in just one click, but so if you have trauma or pain, it can come from your ancestors. Then it can come from like past lives you had, for example, because I'm a deep believer that we lived like 100 times, and that we all have past lives. So maybe you experienced it, but you just don't remember, because we don't remember our past lives, right? So maybe we have like glimpses, or maybe like, I don't know, in Germany we call it déjà vu, that you have like a second where we are like, okay, I this feels familiar, I felt that once, but normally we don't remember. So you can have experienced that in a life like ages ago, and it's still in yourself. And even if you don't have the memory like directly in your mind, your body can have it stored, and it can be stored energetically in your womb. And then you have like, of course, everything which happened in this life. So if someone like was rude to you, this can be mental abuse, but it can be physically abuse. And also, and what shocked me back then when I was informed about that, we women store the energy of every man we slept with in our womb. And there are a lot of men don't have anymore in our lives, right? And there are reasons why we don't sleep with this man anymore, right? And if you think about that, okay, he's not even in my life anymore for, I don't know, years, but I stored this energy in myself still. This thought was like, oh yeah, I want to get rid of this. And no matter if you sleep with a woman or if you sleep with a man, for example, the man has stored your energy as well, but mostly men are like, they are not so highly sensitive, and they don't have a womb, so they don't experience this like false energy field in themselves as much as we women do. So I think every woman should do like a womb detox, because there are so many like strange energies stored in ourselves, that our core energy, the energy we have from ourselves, like gets pushed together to such a tiny part that we can't embrace ourselves so much, because there's so much shit going on. And if you have like, for example, a constant partner, you normally choose a person, if you are long-term with someone you connect very well with, your energy matches very well with, and then it is different. But if you like have the energies of all your ex-boyfriends and stuff, like, I don't know, I didn't like the thought for myself, so I did like an energetically clean out. And you have like different ways you can clean and heal your womb space. And if you clean and heal your womb space, of course, you strengthen the connection to yourself. And I think there's not a wrong way to do it or not a right way to do it, because you can like use, feels like 1,000 methods, and everyone needs to feel, okay, how does it feel for me? Because some women like to do a lighter way, some women choose like every way. For me, it is like I feel into it. And sometimes, for example, I want to do like a full moon ritual, because a full moon ritual is always a way which is very easy and which is always like, you don't need anything. You just need to wait for the next full moon, of course. And full moons are always good to let things go and to cut energies. And you can just wait for the next full moon. You can write down like maybe a letter, maybe just a few things you want to get rid of, and then go out and burn it in the full moon. And even if it's cloudy, it works because the full moon is still there. So a full moon ritual is an easy thing to do. But sometimes I'm like, oh, it's a full moon, I want to do a full moon ritual. And then I put my crystals out and I put candles on and I put incense sticks on, and I'm like dressing up in a gown and going out into the full moon. I think my neighbors, sometimes when they saw me in my garden in the full moon, they are like, oh my gosh, this crazy woman. So at some full moons, I'm like fully into it. And then, for example, this full moon right now, I was just like, no, not feeling it. Not in the mood for anything, didn't even put my crystals out. So for me, it is like, not like, okay, I have this strict rule that I have to follow this. Sometimes I feel like living this full moon and sometimes I don't. Like with my period, sometimes I fully embrace my period and I'm like, oh, I'm so magical, I'm such a magical goddess. And sometimes I'm like, oh no, just want to watch Netflix. So you have to feel into it. If it feels right for you, and if you feel like, okay, I want to try this way to connect deeper with myself, do it. But if it for some reason doesn't feel good to you, then you can just wait. So for me, there's not like a strict rule or not a right or wrong way to do it. Then you can work with the archangels. And there's there are different archangels, and every archangel has its own like duty, I would say. But for example, the archangel Michael, he has like this big, I don't know how it is called in English, this huge knife to fight with. And he's there for, Laura's laughing. I don't know how to explain it better. And he's responsible for cutting off energetically connections. So for example, if you have like a very big heartache, and maybe you just broke up or you want to disconnect with someone because you feel like, oh, this energy is hurting me so much and it pains in my heart, you can work with the archangels as well. I'm not going to go into detail too much because, like I said, there are so many archangels and everyone has its duty. So just Google it and then you will find the right one. Then you can work with crystals and yoni eggs, of course. And with crystals in general, for example, I filter my water and I always have like crystals in the daily water I drink. Because crystals are raising the frequency of everything. And if I drink the water, of course, it raises my frequency as well. And it's good for my health. And of course, it opens up my sensibility to everything. And then with yoni eggs, I don't know if it's someone in the call who doesn't know what yoni eggs are. I don't know. I explain. A yoni egg is basically a crystal, but it is in the form of an egg. So it is very soft, it is round, and like a crystal is like a stone, but a yoni egg is like round and it can't hurt you. And there are like different yoni eggs. You can get them in any kind of stone. So you can take a white one, you can take a rose quartz, you can take an obsidian, and every stone has a different like meaning. And you just use these crystals to put them inside of you. Don't do this during your period, because during your period, you're bleeding and your body needs this time to like flourish out everything what needs to go out and to bleed and stuff. So don't block this blood flow. So during your period, don't use it, but you can use it during any other time. And there are different yoni eggs. You can buy them with a little string. For example, if you have like a feeling of, okay, I want to be in control of it a little, I want to decide when I want to take it out again, you can buy them with a string. But they work without strings as well. And for example, I use mine always without strings, because it is said that the crystal, like, or the yoni egg, feels, okay, what needs to be healed and how much time does it take to heal that. For example, I think the longest my yoni egg was inside of me was like 5 days. But if you are getting closer to your period, your whole womb space gets softer and more liquidy anyway. So at least then the yoni egg will come out from alone, and you don't need to be scared that it's like vanishing inside of your body or something. It's not going to happen. So don't worry. It's a little tricky when you use yoni eggs at first and you go to the toilet, because you don't think of it, you don't feel them. I dropped so many yoni eggs in the toilet already. It's insane. So, and I always told myself, okay, think about it. Of course you don't think about it. So yes, that's a tricky part. But the yoni eggs are a great way, because there's nothing more powerful than a crystal you can carry inside of your womb space, and which is healing. And I experienced that when I used my crystals, I started with like light stones, for example, rose quartz. And then I went up to like the heavier ones, not heavier with weight, but heavier with the way they work, because rose quartz is like soft and it gives you like a little healing and a little love. And the black one, the obsidian, is a very strong stone. And the woman who was doing the coaching with me was telling me, okay, don't use this stone at first. Don't start with an obsidian. And I didn't understand. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, I mean, luckily I was listening. But when I was using the obsidian yoni egg once, I experienced what she was meaning, because I was in the gym running on the treadmill, and suddenly I got like this crying session, and I luckily was alone in the gym, and I started crying and bursting into tears, and I felt so overwhelmed by emotions, and I did not know what it was, but there was some pain coming out of me, obviously. And after it, I realized, whoa, okay, before I went to the gym, I put this obsidian yoni egg in. And this happened every time I was wearing this obsidian, that there was like such an immense pain coming out of me, and I started crying, and I was like angry, and I was like, whoa, okay, this stone is very strong. So if you want to go into this yoni egg journey, I love it, but don't start with an obsidian or inform yourself a little more. And yeah, then you can do like a Reiki session. For example, what I said at first, what I did, there are people who give energy sessions and who can channel energy. So you can do, of course, energy sessions for your whole body as well, if you just feel like a little like exhausted, or if you want to relax. So if you want to have a whole body detox, I would always recommend like a Reiki session. But if you have, for example, something specifically, for example, like a child loss or an abortion or something, and you feel this pain still in your womb, you can also use Reiki to like release this trauma out of your womb. And mostly if it is like a heavier thing like this, it's not going to be done in 1 or 2 sessions. It mostly needs a little more, depending on the person, of course, but it can release trauma, and it can release this like bad experience and this pain out of your body, so that you feel free again. Because a lot of women have like also blocks and feel like blocked and have self-doubts doing sex, and that can be caused by blocks in your womb as well. So Reiki is a good like way to see, okay, where is the trauma stuck, and then you can release it. For example, I had a woman who was telling me she got very bad cramps in her womb, and she doesn't know why, and because she never had it. And I did this Reiki session on her, and I realized on her left side of the womb, where I realized I didn't see it with my eyes, of course, but I saw it in my mind. I saw black spots on the left side, and I was like, okay, this is weird. And then I was asking myself, okay, is it possible that because the right side felt okay and the left side was black spots? And I just channeled the energy and tried to release it and tried to heal. And afterwards I was asking her, like, did you ever had like an accident, or did something happen because your left side of your womb was like black? And she was like, yeah, I had an abortion and the child was lying on the left side. And I was like, oh, okay, how long is that ago? And she was like, yeah, like about 6 months. And I asked her, okay, did you really like went into the topic? So did you like did something, write a letter, say goodbye, or did you do something, some soul work or some inner work? And she was like, no, didn't want to have anything to do with it, just went to the hospital, got the abortion done, went home, never talked about it again. And there was a point she like fixed that problem on a physical way, but she never went into it mentally. And so it still was there. Even when the abortion was done, the energetically like trauma was still there. And that's why I was seeing it on this side. And after it, I told her a few energetically things she could do, and the cramps never came back. So this is a way you can also heal your womb space with energetically work. Then there's a very easy way. I mean, maybe not easy for everyone, but for me, it is totally normal to be naked. When I'm at home alone, I'm naked. And for a lot of women, it is not. This is not a bad thing, because if you are raised very strict, you may feel like weird to be naked. But I think it is so important that we love ourselves. Then it comes back to the topic Laura and me had at first. No matter in which part of your cycle you are, if you are just feeling a little bloated, or if you're ovulating, or if you like feel better, it should be normal for you to look at yourself naked, and it should be normal to love your body. Because I'm not standing in front of the mirror and think like, oh, I'm so perfect. I see flaws in myself too. And I think every woman does. Every woman is like in front of the mirror, oh, I have that, and I have that, and I have that. And I think that's normal. But still you can say, okay, I don't like my butt, or I don't like my arms, so I don't like my breasts. But I can look at myself and I can love my body still, even with these flaws, because it is like an amazing thing that we have this body. And if it's not so normal to you, maybe do that as a little homework. Maybe every evening, put yourself in front of the mirror, naked, turn around and just say, hey, I love you. I love this human shell. No matter if I have flaws, no matter if my butt is a little too big, or if my stomach is too big, or if I don't like my ear, I don't care. I look at my naked human shell and I love it. And I'm thankful that it is working and that it is doing this work for me. I wake up, I can see, I can walk, I can run. And I mean, fuck these little flaws. I mean, if you want to do something for your body to look better and to feel better with nutrition or with going to the gym, go for it. I love the gym and I love nutrition, but we should not be over dramatical about little things if everything else is working so fabulous, you know? So that's my opinion. And I think in that way, when you tell yourself that you love yourself, you connect with yourself every day a little deeper. And it may be weird at first, and you may be like, okay, after day 3 or 4, okay, what is this shit? I'm not going to do this anymore. But if you do it constantly, it becomes a habit. And if you do it again and again and again, it becomes so natural to you that you love your naked body, that you have much, much more empowerment from within. Believe me, it works. And then another thing, which is sounds very light, but it's very powerful. Just pour yourself a bath. Maybe do this when you are alone, or when you have like a time window where you know, okay, I'm not busy, there are no appointments ahead. Just take a bath and put your phone away, take it on flight mode, and don't even listen to music. And I think it's so important not to have music on, because we go into silence like barely. We are always on our phone. When we don't have our phone in our hands, we have Netflix on. If we don't have Netflix on, we listen to music. If we don't listen to music, we have a friend on the phone talking to us. So we're not used to silence anymore. And it is so weird for us sometimes to feel this silence and to be just alone with ourselves and listen to ourselves, that it is scary at first, or can be scary to do so, because we're so used to this million informations going into our ears and our mind every second. So pour yourself a bath, just lay down, put on candles maybe, or whatever you like, but not other noises than just your breathing sound, and concentrate on your breathing. Try to breathe into your womb and just put your hand on your womb. And maybe you don't even need to say anything. Maybe even in that moment, something comes up. Maybe you want to laugh. Maybe you want to cry. Maybe you feel like already like energy like want to come out of you because you're such an energetic person. Your womb is like, oh, finally you listen to me. I want to show you this. I want to show you that. And maybe you get inspired in that moment and you get 1,000 ideas, or maybe some sadness comes up, or some blocks come up where you think like, okay, what is that weird feeling? And this is good as well, because then you have, for the very first time, you have the moment of, wow, there is something what wants to be seen, because our soul has no other way to talk to us. Like, there are a few people who can hear like certain frequencies, but I know only one person who can hear that. So the normal person, like, I mean, what is normal? But normally your soul can't like text you. Your soul can't just put a letter in the mailbox for you. Your soul can't write you on WhatsApp. So your way, or your soul's way to connect with you, is through pain, is through healing, is through like mental blocks, through self-doubt, through physical pain. So if something comes up, it is your soul talking to you. Hey, there is something, look at it. And if we don't look at it, it's going to get worse. And if we put it away, it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, until we have to address it, because we have no other way. Because sometimes you hear from people who get very ill and they were like, oh, I have to finish this job, and they continued, and it got worse and worse and worse. And then finally, because it was so worse that they couldn't live their normal life anymore, they decided, okay, I have to do something about it. And they completely switched the way, went to island, because they were so desperate that they went to some people in the outback to get help. And then suddenly everything vanished, because finally the soul was like, okay, this is what I wanted for you. And this is just our soul showing us topics. So even if you, in some situation, get confronted with sitting there, maybe crying, and don't even know why you cry, this is normal. It is just a topic which wants to be seen. And sometimes it takes time. I had so many moments where I was like, okay, why was I crying? This is so weird. And then it needed days for me to process. And maybe after a week or two, I was like, wow, okay. Then it clicked and I was like, okay, got it. So this is a way you can do it. And the last way of connecting yourself a little more, which is a good connection to the period topic, may sound a little freaky for some people, but you can work with your blood. And what do I mean with like work with your blood? Your blood is the purest like liquid coming out of you. And I don't know if you know that, but some cosmetical products are made with stem cells from placentas, because you can't get any more, or you can't get any cells which are fresher and like have more like nutrition in it for human than fresh stem cells. And I think it is like it hurts my heart to hear or to read that placentas are called waste or birth waste, because I think this is a thing, it nourished a baby 9 months. And even if the baby is born, it has so much nutrition and good blood and cells in it for the baby and the mom. It should belong to the mom and the baby still. And how can you call it waste? So for me, it is very weird to call it waste. But this is exactly what your period is like, because I think you have heard that the cells of your body, and your body renews its cells every 7 years. But your period, you have it every month, right? So these cells are so fresh, because every month your body is like, oh, there wasn't a baby, push that out, new cells. Okay, there wasn't a baby, push that out, new cells. So these cells are so fresh and so new that you can't get anything more fresh for yourself. And the life hack is, it is your own stem cells. So if you put that on your skin, for example, there is not any face cream or any lotion in the world which could be better for your skin than your own stem cells renewing your face, right? So of course it looks a little creepy at first. And of course it is maybe for the very first moment a little weird to touch your period blood in such a way. But for me, it is normal to use it as a face mask. And as I said, I don't do it every time. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, I'm this bloody goddess, and I put it on my skin and I feel like so strong and I feel all this power, and I'm like, whoa, my skin is so fresh. And maybe in the next period, I'm like, okay, fuck it. I just put on Netflix. I don't want to have a face mask. I don't want to see anyone. So I don't do it every time. I, if I feel like it, I do it. And if I don't, I don't. But this is a way where you can connect with your femininity so deep, because your blood and your cycle is the most feminine thing ever. And if you touch your blood and you feel like a little feeling of, wow, this is like weird, or this is disgusting, or maybe you don't feel it feel like weird, this weird feeling, but maybe you feel like, oh, I shouldn't do this. It's like with a little shame connected. Then it is also a topic which comes up, because maybe you have like had strict boundaries in your upbringing. And now you are like, okay, I want to try this, but it's weird. I shouldn't do it. There's a voice in your mind telling you, okay, this is weird. I should not do this. So listen to how it feels like for you to just touch your blood in such a way. And maybe you just don't put it right away in your face. Maybe you just put it on your hand for the first step and look how it feels to slowly start this connection. Like I said, you have to feel okay with it. You have to feel good with it. And if it doesn't feel good to put it in your face right away, then don't. Maybe just make a tip on your finger, put it in your hand, look at it, wash it away. Like, make it like a little journey for yourself. And it doesn't need to be like a strict rule. And yeah, maybe to the history, which is also very interesting. Like Laura said, the cycle has like about 28 days. For example, my cycle is a little shorter. Some women have a longer cycle, some women have a shorter cycle, but let's say it is 28 days. The moon cycle is 28 days too. So the moon and the woman's cycle is so connected. And back then, when we were all tribes living with nature, we were so connected that the women were bleeding with the moon. And I don't know if you heard about it, but back then we had like not 12 months making a year, we had 13 months making a year. And if you do 13 months, it is much easier that 1 month, 1 moon, 1 cycle, 1 month, 1 moon, 1 cycle. It got messed up when we came up with this weird, we have only 12 months and the moon cycle is like not in rhythm with the months anymore. And because of today's society, every woman is not in alignment with this cycle anymore, and the women don't bleed together. One woman's bleeding then and then and then. Everything is like a huge mess right now. So normally women were bleeding with the moon. And normally the cycle of a woman was about the same period than the cycle of a moon, which is, I think, amazing, because it shows the moon is like so powerful, and the moon has like a power over, I don't know how it is called. Maybe Laurie can help me. When the water is going back and coming forth,
Yeah,
like,
I only know it like in German, but I don't know
yeah,
anything.
because in German we have like an ocean where, depending on the moon, and the night and the daytime, the water is coming and the water is going back. So the moon has such an immense power over nature. And I think that says it all. And we are connected with the moon. And how can we think that we don't have divine power if we are in such a connection with the moon? Because nobody taught us. My mom didn't tell me. My grandma didn't tell me. But they didn't taught me that because they were like, oh, we're not going to tell her. They didn't know. They were raised without this knowledge too. So this wisdom gets lost more and more and more with every generation. And I think it is so important that we know, because I don't know if you experience, but if you are together with your friends or maybe with your mom or your sisters for a very long time, your cycle is the same. When I lived together with my sister and my mom, we have our period mostly at the same time. Same with my friends. And this happens with women in one tribe. When the women, like back then, people lived in different tribes, and the women of one tribe, they cycled together. They had their periods at the same time mostly. And they were called, they had tents, like where they could go to, and they were called moon tents or red tents. And these tents were just built up to give these women who were bleeding the space to create their magic. Because in like olden times, it was said that a woman who is bleeding, like Robert said, it's like this period of time where you have your most magic, where your intuition is the strongest, where you can connect even more. Because if I do, like, for example, ancestor work with a woman, I ask her, okay, when are you bleeding? Because the period where you're bleeding is like this time where you have like such a like, there is no wall because of the world of the living and the dead people. And I don't mean dead people in a negative way. I mean dead people with like your grandma, your great grandma, your ancestors. You can connect so much easier when you're bleeding. So there were tents created for these people or for these women bleeding, because the people back then knew, okay, these women are bleeding. They have like much more power to create, to be intuitional, to be magical, and they could go there and they could rest there and they could have their space to create and to be inspired, which is amazing. And in the today's world, we grow up with a feeling of, like Laura mentioned, the advertisements, every day is the same, go surfing on your period or something. We grow up with a feeling of the best you can do is you make your period invisible, and we make it somehow not even there. We make it vanish. And in that moment, we make also vanish all the magic which comes with it, because you can do so much when you're on your period. It is insane. First of all, like I said, you can like do magic. You can do all the ancestor work. You can do all the soul work. You can connect with like your ancestors. I had an experience once for, like I said, 32 years. I always had this inner anger, and I was so angry sometimes. I didn't even know where it came from. I had like the best days and I felt anger, and I never knew where it came from. And one time when I was learning how to do all this ancestor work, I had a session with my coach, and I saw like it was like in a deep meditation, I saw a woman, and she hugged me and she was so nice to me, and she was about my age. And I remember in this meditation, I was asking her, who are you? And she was like it was the most normal thing in the world. She was like, oh, I'm his sister. I'm like, what? Huh? That's weird. And when I came out of this meditation, I was asking my coach and I was telling her about it. And I'm like, this is so weird. She said she's my sister. I mean, I have a sister, but my sister's younger, looks different, blah, blah. And my coach was like, yeah, did your mom ever lose a child? And I was like, I don't know. I don't talk to my mom so close. Like, and so then I talked to my grandma, because I'm very close with my grandma. And my grandma told me, like 6 months before she got pregnant with me, my mom was losing a girl. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is weird. So, and then I continued these sessions, and I realized the anger I felt my whole life was like the anger of my mom, that she lost that child. And because the period she got pregnant with me was so quick, I was feeling this anger my whole life, and I didn't know where it came from, because, yeah, of course, it wasn't my anger. So I could let go of that anger, because I realized, okay, it is not mine. And I also like realized, okay, I can like heal this wound my mom has in herself, and I can help her heal that. And I know, okay, I have a sister, maybe not in this world, but in another dimension. So you could do so much ancestry work when you're bleeding, because you are so close to that world. It is amazing. But of course, no one tells you in today's world. They don't tell you, hey, you have to buy this period product. It blocks your whole your magic, but you have to buy it. Of course, they don't tell you. No one tells you. Then you can, like I said, use the beauty effect. You can like do a face mask or whatever. Then you can do like a connection to nature. You can like, this is also, you have to be a little deeper into your femininity and into your connection, I think, for that. But you can collect your blood and give it like to the ocean or to a lake or to like a river or to a tree, because in that moment it may not feel a direct connection, or may not be a direct connection to you, because if you just put the blood in water or into a tree or something, it doesn't like give you a rushing feeling or something. But if you do it, the universe notices the connection you give, and it gives back to you like more intuition, more senses, more sensibility, and you will long-term realize this a lot. And yeah, let's see, what do I have here? And yeah, in general, I said it, the senses are very, very high in every person. I deeply believe that every person has sensitive senses. Like I said, for me, I can't hear any frequencies. This sense is completely like not developed with me. I have this feeling of I can feel energies. I can see them with my third eye. Sometimes I can see the aura of people. I can sense like if they have a good aura, if they have a bad aura. I have this very intense feeling of energies. A few of my friends, they dream or see things before they happen. I don't have that as well. But I think everyone has different senses, and everyone has one sense who is more developed than the other. And you can experience that like the more you connect with your feminine core. So if you start connecting with your womb, with your blood, with your cycle, and it doesn't matter where you start and how you start, but the more you connect step by step, the more you will realize, okay, your intuition comes back to you. And also with like hormonal birth control, also like Laura said, it's up to you what you take, it's up to you what choice you make. But for me, it is crystal clear that I'm not gonna take any hormonal birth control ever again, because now it is like a whole new world opened up. I had no idea, 30 years, I had no idea about this world going on next to me. And it opened up like boom, 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 boom. And I was like, whoa, where was this world all these years? And now I can like sense it and feel it. And what shocked me is that if you are on hormonal birth control, or like normally we women have a very good sense in smelling. And with smelling, I don't mean like if you like smell a perfume or something, which has obviously very strong smell, but we can smell if a man has good genetics matching for us. For example, if you sometimes you see a good looking man and you think like, oh, he's very attractive, but then he comes closer and something in you is like, no, he's not my type, even if he looks good. This is like your senses telling you that his, I don't know if that's the right word, but his pheromones, his like genetics are not the best for you. So if you would get a baby with this man, it would just not be a strong match. The kids would just not have this strong genetics they need to survive, if we think back then. And if you are on hormonal birth control, and this is a fact because I read it, and meanwhile it is, you can Google it, if you are on hormonal birth control, these senses are blocked. So it is really the truth that women on birth control choose men with less masculine genetics, and that women on birth control choose men they would not choose otherwise. And that was very scary for me. I was like, oh wow, okay, this is creepy, because if we are not on hormones, and if we are in our natural state, we can directly sense, okay, this man is good and this man is like just not matching. And that is a thing where I was like, all right, this is gonna interrupt my nature too much here, so I'm not gonna go there ever again. And there are so many things which got blocked away, and like this sense of smelling literally the right man, or just connecting with your intuition and getting your senses back, is just like two of these things. And like I said, I can't go into detail of everything because it is so much. And like, if I do my work, I have to see which details are good for this client right now. But yeah, this was a little base of everything I do. And I hope I inspired you maybe. And if you have questions, of course, you can drop them in the chat, or just yeah, like unmute yourself, because we're not a lot here. So I think unmuting is okay as well. And if you don't have questions, I thank you for having me. And yeah, I give back to Laura.
So cool. I mean, I already enjoyed what you said in the German call before. I think it's just like so magical and so interesting. Yeah, what we can do within that phase, especially when we're bleeding so much. I guess everybody in here must have learned something new today, like tons of new things. So thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, girls, if you have any questions, now is the time that you can ask Sophie, or me anything you want. And then, like, of course, what I said before with like the PDF, for example, I just want to explain you a little bit how it works in general. So basically, the whole HHS program, like the Cycle Sync program, which I just showed you before, is also part of the HHS program. So if somebody of you like decides, hey, I want to get the HHS program anyways, I'm going to read you, I'm going to tell you like the other topics we basically have in there. So we have like the basic module, is that right? Like the basic thing, which is basically nourishment. It's about movement, it's about self-love, and it's about sleep in general. We have a PDF to that. The next thing is manifestation, mindset, confidence, meditation, and manifestation. Then we have spirituality, period power. This is like the cycle sync. Yoga, human design is gonna come, astrology is gonna come, goal setting, soul work planning, and journaling. So those are like all the topics we basically are gonna have like PDFs for you. We're gonna do like coaching calls to some certain topics. And with the HHS program, there's like different ways you can basically get it. So if you just want to be part of the HHS program, you can just like pay one time and you have the whole thing forever basically, and you can like use most of those codes as well, and you get like all the PDFs, and this is like a one-time thing for like 100 euros. Or, and this is like what I would recommend you, because I always feel like if you can get it for free on top, that would be like the most amazing thing. If you, for example, know, okay, hey, I have already seen some of like the superfoods the girls are working with. Like I showed you a little bit about the supplements, basically, which are like so beneficial, not just like for women, not just because of our cycle in general, because you're human. It is so crucial basically, and like so, yeah, so beneficial for so many areas. If you decide to get like more than two superfoods, then you, or like two or more superfoods, then you get the whole program for free. So if you think about that, just let us know. And if you're like not into all these other topics and you would only be interested in that PDF I showed you before, usually that is like 40 euros. But as I said, like because you're on that call tonight, we have a surprise for you. So you can also either you get products and you get it for free anyways, or you can just like get it for 10 euros, and you have like the whole thing. So whatever you decide, if you were just happy with that call, that's also super fine, obviously. But honestly, if you enjoyed it, if you got knowledge out of this call, if you enjoyed like listening to Sophia, I told you we're gonna have like more calls with her as well. If you want to use that, then the HHS program is really a really good decision to make. And yeah, as I said, like also if you have any questions, let us know. One of the next calls is going to be about like with a really cool well-being and mindfulness coach. I'm super excited for that as well, and it's also going to be in English. Yeah, so let me just see if there's any questions.
I just put our Instagram names in the chat.
All right.
People already got us, so I just put them in.
Perfect. Yeah, and you know, like also if you have questions afterwards, obviously, like also feel free
Yeah,
to.
sure.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you hear something. So this is the case with me. I hear something, and then in the night it processes, and 2 days after I'm like, oh, I have a question.
Thank you. Yeah, it was lovely that you were all here tonight. Process it and then get back to us. Have a lovely evening, girls.
Bye bye.